President Trump's tax cuts could spark an era of unprecedented challenges, far different from what you'd imagine. Their ripple effects will gain unstoppable momentum, just like a snowball racing down a hill. John slumps in his dimly lit apartment, staring blankly at his tablet screen. The words, "Your contract has been terminated," glare back at him. A notification dings. Your corporate-issued vehicle will be repossessed if payment is not received by 11:59 p.m. John exhales sharply, rubbing his temples. Another contract gone. Another rejection email. There was no severance, no unemployment benefits, just a digital pink slip and an automated note wishing him luck. Who do I call? Who do I beg? He mutters. But he knows the answer. There's no HR department, just an AI chatbot that decided he was redundant. His fridge hums, nearly empty. His stomach twists. He grabs his car key fob, not to his own car, but the one he rents weekly from MoveGo, a BlackRock car rental subsidiary. It's not much, but at least it gets him to the store. John grabs a bag of rice and scans the price, $59.99. He swallows hard. That's a mistake, he thinks, but he knows better. Every time he comes here, prices are higher than the week before. Eggs, $25. A loaf of bread, $18. Meat, a luxury he hasn't had in months. His hands tighten around the bag of rice. It's all he can afford. He walks forward to the self-checkout, where AI cameras track his every move. The machine chirps, "Confirm purchase, $60 deducted." His account balance flashes on the screen, $14.23 remaining. A wave of humiliation washes over him. Behind him, a mother with 2 children picks up and puts down a carton of milk, debating whether it's worth the splurge. A man in line mutters, "Insane," under his breath, but no one protests. What's the point? He steps outside and sees a man rifling through the trash bin, pocketing half-eaten sandwiches wrapped in corporate branding. No one bats an eyelash. It's the new normal. John approaches his MoveGo rental, scanning his fingerprint to unlock it. A notification pops up. Automatic charge, $130 deducted for weekly rental. His stomach drops. He gets into the car and checks his account balance again. Negative $115.77. His heart pounds. Insufficient funds. Your vehicle will be locked within 10 minutes. Please make a payment. John grips the steering wheel, shaking. You people are really going to take it while I'm sitting in the car? Seriously? You just overdrew my account, he exclaims. But of course they can't. It's not his car. He doesn't own anything. The American dream? It's dead. It's been dead for years. He watches as a security drone hovers nearby, blinking red, tracking him. You see, MoveGo rental vehicles don't just shut down anymore. They alert law enforcement. He inhales sharply, grabs the bag of rice, and quickly exits the vehicle as he angrily throws the keys inside the car. As he walks home under the neon-lit skyline, he sees them, the new workforce. AI-powered delivery bots replacing couriers, corporate-owned security drones patrolling the streets, dormitories of foreign workers that work for half the pay of what Americans used to make. John clenches the bag of rice in his arms like it's the last thing keeping him tethered to survival. Tomorrow he'll look for another gig. Tomorrow he'll try again. But tonight he walks. The city hums with the sound of automation, and no one is coming to help him. As he walks, John wonders, what kind of a life is this? How did we get here? To understand this potential dystopian future, we need to go back to the succession of turning points in recent history, culminating with the 2017 Trump tax cuts and the pandemic. The country survived the recession of 2008 with $1.3 trillion in spending, combined with the economic slowdown, which led to the dollar losing 30% of its value. Later, in 2017, after President Trump was elected, Congress passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. President Trump is currently proposing more corporate tax cuts and extending the tax cuts already passed by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. These are slated to expire this year. It was sold as a way to help American workers and relief for the middle class. However, what it really did was shift massive wealth to corporations and the ultra-rich, but not necessarily from the tax in and of itself. The pandemic a few years later made things worse, with $4.5 trillion in spending, an economic slowdown leading to an 18% increase in inflation. In addition to the unprecedented spending during the pandemic, more insidious trends emerged that threaten the average middle-class way of life here in America. Lower corporate tax rates are supposed to encourage hiring, but instead they fast-tracked AI job automation. Why? Because algorithms and robots are cheaper, smarter, and more efficient. Companies had already started the process of investment into AI due to the shift to remote work. Experiencing the increased efficiencies of AI in digital transformation, analytics, supply chain, retail, and healthcare, companies started to see the benefits of using AI to streamline their business processes and build cost efficiencies. Unfortunately, the 2017 tax cuts further encouraged companies to invest in AI and self-service technology, as the corporate tax rates dropped from 35% to 21%, leaving businesses with extra cash. For example, Walmart spent $11 billion on self-checkout machines and store automation, leading to layoffs in cashier positions. McDonald's invested $300 million in AI-driven ordering kiosks, eliminating thousands of fast food cashier jobs. Major banks, including Bank of America and JP Chase, replaced thousands of customer service representatives with AI-powered chatbots. Between 2017 and 2022, over 3.7 million jobs were lost due to automation in retail, customer service, and manufacturing sectors, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Small businesses also did not fare as well with the corporate tax cuts, as they had fewer tax deductions, little offshore tax shelters, and could not take advantage of corporate loopholes. For example, a local coffee shop earning $500,000 per year paid an effective 25% tax rate, while Starbucks paid less than 5% after deductions. Small retailers and manufacturers also had increased costs due to higher import tariffs, which disproportionately affected businesses that rely on foreign goods. The tax cuts were supposed to help small businesses, but only corporate giants walked away with the biggest wins, and the very tax cuts meant to create jobs may have eliminated millions instead. But that's not all. While homeowners hoped for benefits, the tax cuts fueled corporate real estate speculation, making it harder to own a home. The cap on state and local taxes, also known as SALT, those deductions hurt middle-class homeowners in high-tax states. Private equity firms used their tax savings to buy up single-family homes across the nation, converting them into rental properties. For example, in 2021 alone, corporate investors bought up 18% of all single-family homes in the U.S., outbidding individual home buyers, according to Redfin in 2022. Companies like BlackRock, Invitation Homes, and American Homes for Rent bought thousands of properties, raising rents as much as 20% in some cities. Homeownership rates also declined from 65% to 62% between 2017 and 2022. Between 2017 and 2022, the housing market experienced a significant surge in prices. In January of 2017, the average home price was below $300,000, but by 2022, this figure had risen to approximately $521,500, marking an increase of over 70%. The result? The surge in rent and home ownership prices, making it harder for middle-class families to pay the rent and buy a home. But still, that's not all. When tax cuts made corporations wealthier and working-class people poorer, we entered an economy where ownership is replaced with renting forever. Homes, cars, even appliances are now part of a subscription-based economy where individuals own nothing and corporations own everything. The tax cuts enable corporations to use tax breaks to expand their asset ownership rather than reinvesting in workers. For example, BlackRock, Vanguard, and private equity firms now own a massive portion of single-family homes, forcing people into perpetual renting. Auto manufacturers such as Volvo, BMW, Porsche, and Mercedes-Benz now promote car subscriptions instead of ownership. Even appliances, refrigerators, washing machines are becoming pay-per-month services instead of owned assets. It's like a snowball. The recession of 2008, which saw $1.3 trillion in relief spending, which resulted in a 30% loss in the dollar's value. The tax cuts of 2017, along with $4.5 trillion in pandemic spending between 2020 and 2023, culminated in inflation exceeding 18%. As we see now, the purchasing power of the dollar has significantly been reduced. If President Trump and Congress are able to cut taxes again and even abolish the IRS, tax collection mechanisms would shift to tariffs and consumption-related taxes. This would hurt small businesses and raise the prices of everyday goods, making it even harder for ordinary working and middle-class Americans to meet their basic needs. Housing prices have already doubled and will likely double again, as Wall Street firms such as BlackRock may again have the cash to buy up entire neighborhoods, thereby creating the conditions to make homeownership completely out of reach for the average American, especially in high cost of living states such as California, New York, Massachusetts, and New Jersey, which are already far too expensive. Health insurance, education, and essential goods will also become unaffordable for most. Fast forward to John's 2039. The middle class, gone. Small businesses, replaced by corporate monopolies. Jobs, temporary, low-paying, or eliminated entirely by AI. This is John's world. A world where you rent your car from BlackRock, your home from Vanguard, and your future from the billionaires who made the rules. If more tax cuts are provided again, what is stopping corporations from doing a second phase of stock buybacks, purchasing single-family homes, and destroying jobs with AI automation? Absolutely nothing. So what does John's life look like in 2039? Gig work dominates. No job security, no benefits. AI and outsourcing, which took 60% of the jobs, and the ones that were left were low wage and high competition. Federal funding no longer provides safety nets for workers. The wealth gap is wider than ever. A future controlled by corporations built on policies destroyed the middle class. However, all is not lost. We have lessons from history to show us that tax policies can build a strong middle class. From the progressive era tax reforms in the U.S. in the 1910s and 1930s, fairness was created in the system by taxing the ultra-wealthy to fund public investments. The 16th Amendment, established in 1913, created the federal income tax, ensuring that the wealthiest Americans contributed fairly to the economy. Estate taxes were introduced, preventing extreme wealth concentration among a few families. Public schools and early infrastructure projects were funded by these tax revenues. So what was the impact on the middle class? Public education expanded, creating a more skilled workforce. Infrastructure projects created jobs, leading to widespread economic opportunity. The tax burden was shared more equitably, preventing economic clashes due to extreme wealth inequality. Progressive taxation ensured that the middle class was not disproportionately burdened while still allowing economic growth. During the post-World War II U.S. economic boom, which was between the 1940s and 1960s, also known as the golden age of the middle class, the top marginal tax rate of the wealthiest Americans was as high as 91% under President Eisenhower. Corporate tax rates were also high, but companies reinvested in infrastructure, worker wages, and expansion rather than stock buybacks. The Revenue Act of 1942 introduced progressive taxation to help fund the war effort while ensuring post-war stability. The government did massive public investment in infrastructure such as the interstate highway system, education like the GI Bill, and homeownership with FHA loans. Union membership was strong, helped securing living wages and worker benefits. Homeownership rates skyrocketed as middle-class families gained access to affordable housing through government-backed loans. Wages kept up with productivity, ensuring that workers and corporations both benefited from economic growth. So what was the result on the middle class? High marginal tax rates, combined with government investment in education, housing, and infrastructure, built the largest and most prosperous middle class in American history. In Germany, post-World War II, their tax reforms created an economic miracle between the 1950s and 1970s. Corporate tax rates were moderate, but loopholes were closed to ensure businesses paid their fair share. A progressive income tax system ensured that wealthier individuals contributed more to the nation's rebuilding. The government invested in job training programs, ensuring displaced workers could transition to new industries. So what was the impact on the middle class? a booming economy with a strong middle class that could afford homes, cars, and education. Germany became one of the largest exporters in the world as businesses invested in worker productivity instead of cutting wages. Unemployment remained low due to focus on job retraining and workforce development. So, the history lesson is Germany's balanced tax approach ensured businesses contributed fairly, while public investment lifted workers into the middle class. The Scandinavian social tax model used by Sweden, Norway, and Denmark has created the most stable middle class since 1950. The system has high taxes but also high returns for workers. Higher income tax rates on wealthy citizens between 50 and 60%, but in return, citizens receive free healthcare, education, and retirement benefits. Corporate tax rates are moderate, but companies are required to contribute to worker benefits and paid leave programs. VAT, also known as the value added tax, is high, ensuring everyone contributes but in a fair way. The middle class have high disposable income despite high taxes, since essential services like education and healthcare are covered. They have longer life expectancy and job security due to government backed worker protections. Their social mobility is among the highest in the world, meaning lower income workers have a real chance to move into the middle class. So here's the history lesson. Scandinavian countries have shown that higher taxes can still promote middle class growth when reinvested into social welfare and economic stability programs. In Canada, post World War II, the tax and social system had more of a balanced approach with moderate taxation that paid for universal benefits. Corporate tax rates remained competitive, encouraging investment but closing loopholes. A progressive tax system ensured high earners contributed more without stifling economic growth. Universal health care, strong public schools, and retirement programs were funded through tax revenue. As a result, middle class families saved thousands per year on healthcare and education, allowing for higher homeownership rates. Canada has a lower poverty rate than the US due to tax funded safety nets. Small businesses thrive as they do not need to bear the full burden of healthcare costs for employees. Therefore, Canada's balanced tax approach provides stability for middle class families while maintaining economic growth. A strong middle class was built before, it can be rebuilt again. But do we have the political will to get it done? John's future doesn't have to be ours. But if we don't act, if we don't learn from history, this is where we are headed. The reality is, corporate tax cuts don't create jobs, they create more billionaires. Abolishing the IRS and relying on tariffs hurts the working class. Housing, food, and healthcare will continue to become unaffordable unless progressive taxation on corporations is allowed. History shows us how to fix it, and we can prevent John's future from ever manifesting. Beyond the feel good sound bites, the shallow media coverage, and short term displays of strong action by President Trump and his cabinet, remember that things are not always as they appear to be. So be an informed citizen, go beyond the shallow coverage, ask good questions, and do your research. If you're new to our channel and appreciate the historical insight to this modern problem and found the information valuable, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks.